We all know managers are the boss, but what do managers actually do? Managers are responsible for performing four main functions: planning, organizing, controlling, and leading. The task of planning involves setting performance objectives and deciding how to achieve them. This starts with identifying a goal and establishing an action plan to reach success. A good manager performs the leading function of management by inspiring their workforce to achieve high performance. The act of controlling is done by measuring performance, then taking action if the desired results were not achieved, or rewarding if the results were achieved. Organizing is arranging tasks, people, and other resources effectively to accomplish work, such as our manager here assigning 2 employees to work together on a project. The function of organization can be broken down further into 4 steps: identification of activities, departmentally organizing the activities, classifying the authority, and coordination between authority and responsibility. The task of identifying activities is self-explanatory, as a manager must decide which jobs need to be done. Similar tasks are grouped into departments or units in Step 2 of organization. Neglecting to departmentally organize tasks can lead to decreased efficiency due to duplication of effort. Step 3 of organizing is classifying the authority. This happens when a hierarchy is established within a department. A hierarchy is a clear outline of the chain of command. It allows all employees to understand who they are reporting to, and all managers to understand who they are responsible for. Failing to complete Step 3 of organizing, and therefore not establishing a hierarchy, can lead to confused employees and decreased efficiency. The 4th and final step of organizing is the coordination between authority and responsibility. This happens when an organizational structure is drawn out and understood by all employees, including who reports to who and what jobs need to be done by what departments. So why is organizing so important? Well, the best way to answer that is to look at the difference between a manager who does use his organizational skills and one who doesn't, and the outcomes of both. A manager who organizes effectively has a workforce who are all on the same page and can contribute to a common goal as efficiently as possible. They know who they report to and what their tasks are. There's no confusion, and all the work gets done in a timely manner. If a manager does not organize effectively, this can lead to the employees all being on different pages. This causes confused and frustrated staff, which also leads to decreased productivity and a negative mood in the workplace. It is clear that organizing is an essential part of being a manager. Organization allows a group to be on the same page and increase their productivity to their maximum potential.
In this course, we will discuss the fundamental characteristics of organizing and explain the division of labor, chain of command, span of management, and centralization versus decentralization. Let's explore structure and authority in management. First, a couple of definitions. Organizing is the deployment of organizational resources to achieve strategic goals. It involves assigning tasks, grouping tasks into departments, and allocating resources. The organizing process leads to the creation of organizational structure, which defines how tasks are divided and resources are deployed. Organizational structure is the framework in which an organization defines how tasks are divided, resources are deployed, and departments are coordinated. Organizational structure is defined in 3 components. First, the set of formal tasks assigned to individuals and departments. Second, formal reporting relationships, including lines of authority, decision responsibility, number of hierarchical levels, and span of managers' control. And third, the design of systems to ensure effective coordination of employees across departments. Ensuring coordination across departments is just as critical as defining the departments to begin with. Without effective coordination systems, no structure is complete. Organizations perform a wide variety of tasks. A fundamental principle is that work can be performed more efficiently if employees are allowed to specialize. Division of labor is the degree to which organizational tasks are subdivided into separate jobs. This is also called work specialization. Employees within each department perform only tasks relevant to their specialized function. When division of labor is extensive, employees specialize in a single task. Jobs tend to be small, but they can be performed efficiently. Division of labor is readily visible on an automobile assembly line, where each employee performs the same task over and over again. It would not be efficient to have a single employee build the entire automobile, or even perform a large number of unrelated jobs. Despite the apparent advantages of specialization, many organizations are moving away from the principle. With too much division of labor, employees are isolated and only do a single, boring job. In addition, too much specialization creates separation and hinders the coordination that's essential for organizations to be effective. Many companies are implementing teams and other mechanisms to enhance coordination and provide greater challenge for employees. The chain of command is an unbroken line of authority that links all employees in an organization and shows who reports to whom. Chain of command is associated with two underlying principles. Unity of command means that an employee is held accountable by only one supervisor. The scalar principle refers to a clearly defined line of authority in an organization that includes all employees. Authority and responsibility for different tasks should be distinct. All individuals in an organization should know to whom they report, as well as the successive management levels all the way to the top. Authority is the formal and legitimate right of a manager to make decisions, issue orders, and allocate resources to achieve outcomes desired by the organization. Authority is distinguished by three characteristics. Managers have authority because of the positions they hold, and other people in the same positions would have the same authority. Positions at the top of the hierarchy are vested with more formal authority than are positions at the bottom. And finally, although authority flows from the top down, subordinates comply because they believe managers have a legitimate right to issue orders. Responsibility is the flip side of the authority coin. Responsibility is the duty to perform the task or activity that one has been assigned. Typically, managers are assigned authority commensurate with their responsibilities. When managers have responsibility for task outcomes but little authority, the job is possible but difficult. In this situation, managers rely on persuasion and luck. When managers have authority that exceeds their responsibility, they may become tyrants and use authority to achieve frivolous outcomes. Accountability is the mechanism through which authority and responsibility are brought into alignment. Accountability means that people with authority and responsibility are subject to reporting and justifying task outcomes to those above them in the chain of command. Another important concept related to authority is delegation. Delegation is when managers transfer authority and responsibility to positions below them in the hierarchy. Delegating decision-making to lower-level managers and employees can be highly motivated and improve speed, flexibility, and creativity. However, many managers find delegation to be difficult. When managers can't delegate, they undermine the role of their subordinates and prevent people from doing their jobs effectively. An important distinction in many organizations is between line authority and staff authority, which reflects whether managers work in line departments or staff departments in the organization structure. Let's take a look. Line authority is the formal power to direct and control immediate subordinates. Line departments perform tasks that reflect the organization's primary goal and mission. In a software company, as an example, line departments make and sell the product. In an internet-based company, line departments would be those that develop and manage online offerings and sales. Staff authority is the right to advise, counsel, and recommend in the manager's area of expertise. Staff departments include all those that provide specialized skill in support of line departments. Staff departments have an advisory relationship with line departments and typically include marketing, labor relations, research, accounting, and human resources. Centralization and decentralization pertain to the hierarchical level at which decisions are made. It's all about organizational structure. Centralization means that decision authority is located near the top organizational levels, whereas decentralization means that decision authority is pushed down to lower organizational levels. Factors that typically influence centralization versus decentralization are as follows. Greater change and uncertainty in the environment are usually associated with decentralization. The amount of centralization or decentralization should fit the organization's strategy. And finally, in times of crisis or risk or company failure, authority may be centralized at the top. So now you understand a little bit more that the chain of command, authority, responsibility, and accountability are critical factors in the success of managers within their organizational structure.
The benefits of voluntary trade are obvious. Suppose this guy has bananas, and this guy has oranges. He needs oranges for marmalade, and this guy needs bananas for banana bread. They swap, they exchange. Each guy is made better off through trade. In our last video, though, we saw that a key fact about the modern world involves more than simple exchange, more than merely moving existing things around. We grew rich by also producing more stuff per person. Say you're cooking hamburgers and fries for your family. It might take an hour for you to prepare the meal because you individually do everything. You start the grill, you cook the burgers, chop the fries, slice the vegetables, on and on and on. But now look at how a burger joint makes hamburgers. Each worker has a specific job in the chain of production that serves burgers and fries to its customers. Each worker is specialized. This specialization, what Adam Smith called the division of labor, makes individual workers more productive. No more lost time switching between tasks. Plus, as a worker concentrates his effort, he gets better at doing the task at hand. But it's not just the specialization of workers that increases output. It's also the development of specialized tools that modern workers use. The burger joint has tools to slice potatoes, to cook burgers, and to fry the fries. That's just specialization 101. I'm sure you've seen one of these around, the container. They're everywhere. Cargo transported by ship used to be stored in barrels, in sacks, in wooden crates, and offloaded by hand. The invention of the container, though, created more than just a metal box to put stuff in. With it came a wave of specialized technology that dramatically increased the productivity of shipping and offloading. Ships themselves evolved, dwarfing their predecessors, with the ability to stack containers below and on the deck. Ports changed too, dredging deep waters and providing specialized pilots and gantry cranes to quickly park and unload ships. Driverless yard tractors magically whisk containers away. The containers are put on trucks and trains built specifically to hold them. Workers today are superhuman compared to their brethren of yesteryear. We went from carrying bags on our backs to lifting the equivalent of 2 school buses with mere flicks of our wrists. To make specialization worthwhile, you need to make a lot of stuff. For example, there's no point specializing in hamburgers if you plan to cook only 1 burger a week, or buying a forklift or a crane simply to unload weekly groceries from the family car. Trade provides a market big enough to make it worthwhile to invest in specialization. And the bigger the market, the more we specialize, and hence, the more we can produce. But specialization doesn't stop.
Hello there, buddy. With a little help from my animated friends, let's find out what organizational structure means. Now meet Nancy. She's the Chief Executive Officer, or CEO, of Awesome Corp, a company with 35 employees. Well, this is Jim. He's the Chief Operating Officer, or COO, of Awesome Corp. He's Nancy's second in command and reports directly to her. Jim oversees a wide variety of areas, including production, sales, and marketing. Mutlu is the Chief Financial Officer, or CFO. Simply put, he's responsible for the financial health of the company. Nancy, Jim, and Mutlu are Awesome Corp's executive team. But Awesome Corp has more employees than just 3. A lot more. Let's take a look at the financial department. As you remember, Mutlu is the CFO. Now this is his team. Layla is a senior receivables accountant. She manages accounts receivables. That's the money coming into the company from its customers. She makes sure invoices get issued and that Awesome Corp gets paid on time. Well, this is Thomas. He's Layla's peer, meaning that they are likely to receive comparable compensation, and they both report to Mutlu. Thomas's area is slightly different though. Thomas handles accounts payable. That's the money that the company pays to its suppliers and service providers. He also happens to handle the company's taxes. Susan is a procurement specialist. She works with the company's suppliers and partners to make sure the company always has sufficient resources and that service contracts are up to date. She frequently scouts new vendors in order for Awesome Corp to get the best prices. Well, Thomas is her manager. Ahoy, Financial Department! Of course, there are more departments. Together, all these employees from Awesome Corp, decision-making power flows from the top to the bottom, with a greater concentration at the top. All companies are slightly different, but this will give you a solid start. For practice, try sketching out an organizational structure of your company or college. Good luck!
Terrence is a supervisor at Megacorp, a large multinational conglomerate. He works in the product division overseeing a team that assembles components for computers. Terrence can only effectively manage a certain number of people at one time. On the other hand, if he manages too few, the company will not operate efficiently, and that costs money. The number of employees that can be controlled directly by a manager is called the manager's span of control. Span of control depends on such factors as the type of work, the complexity of the work, and the variability of the work task. Let's look at some examples. Terrence's team works in a very controlled environment because of the fragility of the electronic components, such as motherboards, video cards, and audio cards that must be installed. Additionally, installation is somewhat complex and time-consuming. Terrence's span of control is, therefore, fairly narrow. Let's say that Terrence decides to pull some overtime in the packaging department. Now Terrence is supervising a team that is packing up Ethernet cables that are sold separately as an accessory. The cables are pretty durable, and all the team is doing is putting individual display packages into shipping boxes for delivery to the company's retail distributors. Given the relative simplicity of the task, Terrence's span of control can be much broader. In other words, he can manage many more employees at the same time compared to when he is managing his regular team installing computer components. Another important management principle for Terrence is unity of command. The employees under Terrence answer only to him. He's the only one that gives them orders, and they listen and take direction only from him. On the other hand, Terrence answers to the head of his department, who manages all of the team supervisors. Terrence takes directions only from his department head. Therefore, his organization has a strong unity of command, which is a principle that states that each employee is responsible to only one manager. This creates efficiency and prevents problems. Just think how hard and inefficient it would be to answer to more than one boss, who each has different management styles, expectations, and priorities that conflict with one another. The principle of unity of command prevents this. Let's take a closer look at unity of command at Terrence's company. We'll start from the top of the organizational hierarchy and work our way down to Terrence's employees. At the top of the organization is the board of directors, which is led by the chairman of the board. The president of the company is answerable to the chairman. On the other hand, the president manages a group of divisional vice presidents. These divisional vice presidents answer to only the president and manage a group of department heads in their respective divisions. The department heads each manage a group of supervisors, like Terrence, in their departments. And of course, the supervisors manage a group of employees. Let's review what we've learned. Span of control and unity of command are two important management principles. Span of control refers to the number of employees a manager has under his control and will be based on such factors as type, complexity, and variability of the work task managed. Unity of command is a management principle that states an employee should be answerable and responsible to only one person in the organization.
In this video, we're going to talk about the difference between centralization and decentralization in organizations. So let's unpack the details. Hello again, friends. Alex Lyon here. If you've never tuned into this channel before, Communication Coach, we put out weekly videos on professional communication and leadership skills. And today we're going to talk about centralization versus decentralization in organizational settings. I think once you see each of these in their side-by-side comparisons, you'll be able to see your own personal experience a little bit more clearly and understand how organizations work. And as we talk about each of these, I would like to invite you to make a comment below in that section below the video about where you see the strengths and the disadvantages under each of these models. So let's start with the centralized style of organizational structure. This is where you see all of the power concentrated in a single individual or a small group of individuals. In fact, the telltale sign you're dealing with a centralized type of organization is where the top boss is the president, CEO, and chairman of the board. That's highly centralized authority under one person. And as a result, all of the power, authority, and the decision-making power is held in that person's hands. So a lot of times what you'll see is quite a bit of top-down communication where the person in the top position makes a decision and hands that communication down, hands that decision down, and the communication flows down the chain of command all the way eventually down to the people at the front line of the organization. So in that way you have what we call the classic hierarchy. You have all of the levels represented like in a military style where you have the top generals, so to speak, the top officers, and then all the middle people, and then finally the frontline supervisors and frontline employees. So it's a pyramid, if you will. And as part of every pyramid, you also frequently see division of labor, where each of these jobs is broken up into small little pieces. So you might do one little thing and then hand it off to the next person. It's a little bit like an assembly line where everybody just does one little tiny piece of the job to complete the job overall in the end. Now, even if you're in an office setting, by the way, you can still feel this assembly line philosophy woven into this hierarchy and this division of labor style that you often see in a centralized style of organizations. So what we end up with is something that is tightly coupled, a system that has tight coupling. So everything in the organization is directly connected, and if one thing happens in this department, the other departments feel the jolt. So anytime something happens in an assembly line, let's say you're going from A to Z to finish your product, if something happens at step C, the whole assembly line has to stop, and that becomes a really big problem for the organization because all the work grinds to a complete halt. So it's tightly coupled. Now, the upside of a centralized style of organization is control and stability. In fact, the whole thing is designed for control. So if you consider that an advantage, then it is. The downside is that they're not very flexible. So if change happens, they're pretty bad at adapting to that change, especially in the marketplace. And also they're really bad at upward communication, that bottom-up communication. So if there's good feedback from employees or from customers, it doesn't really make it to the top level decision makers through all those levels of hierarchy. And if they do hear about something, it's usually distorted or tainted a little bit. So that's the centralized style. Now let's contrast that with the decentralized style of organizations. And this is where the control is spread out. So you don't have one person that's the chairman, the CEO, and the president. You have people in different positions like this so that decision-making power is somewhat spread out. Authority is somewhat spread out. Just like in the states of the United States, we have 50 states. We have a central government. Let's just pretend for a minute that our country was more emphasized on the state level control. That would be a little bit more decentralized. And it's the same way in an organization. When power is distributed between and among the teams or the units or the department heads, that's a little bit more decentralized. So it doesn't all have to go through the people at the very, very top of the hierarchy. And so as a result, you often have decision-making power as well as communication spread out throughout the groups in the team. So lots more communication between and among team members on a team and between and among the teams themselves. So not a hierarchy and division of labor, but there's team-based work. So you have a lot of cross-training. people know how to do multiple jobs and know how to learn over time through cross-training how to work with others outside of their immediate department. You end up with something called a loosely coupled system. So instead of an assembly line where it's tightly coupled and everything is directly affecting the other, a loosely coupled system is where the pieces are still connected, but the connection is more of an interdependent connection. So if one team has a problem, it's not likely to directly affect the other teams. They might feel some influence eventually, but the other teams can keep working. The assembly line doesn't grind to a halt because it's not organized that way. So the advantages of a decentralized organization, obviously it's flexible and adaptable to changes in the marketplace, and usually teams produce very high quality products and services. The downside is that coordination is not automatic, and teams have to learn over time to get better at communicating between and among the teams so that they're not just working in a completely isolated fashion. They have to work all together as well at times. So there's a contrasting look and a comparison at centralized versus decentralized organizations. As I put these side by side here, I would like to ask you, which one do you most relate to? Where do you see yourself in each of these in your professional experience? Again, as I mentioned, I would love to hear you comment in that section below the video. I look forward to reading those comments. And if you have never subscribed to this channel, I invite you to do so. As I mentioned, we put out weekly content on professional communication and leadership skills. So until next time, God bless, and I will see you in the next video.
Created using Powtoon.